Thanks very much for staying with us. Time now for Eye on Africa with me, Georgia Calvin-Smith. Tonight, more protesters are fatally shot in protests in Khartoum and other Sudanese cities. The internet and mobile networks are cut, but don't stop huge rallies against the military springing up once again. Also, as South Africa exits its fourth wave of the pandemic, many of its citizens think other countries trying to respond to rising numbers of Omicron cases have missed the mark by targeting South African travellers with major travel restrictions. And the brightest, but not quite the best, not yet at least, Senegal's national squad's hoping to change its luck at the latest Africa Cup of Nations tournament. The team's full of top-flight athletes, but has yet to win a major competition. But first, in Sudan, 3 protesters were shot dead during a crackdown on the latest demonstrations against military rule. Crowds tried to move towards the presidential palace in Khartoum on Thursday as security forces fired tear gas at them. Dozens of people have been killed since generals launched a coup in October. Laurent Berstecker has more.
Braving the tear gas, Khartoum residents continued their months-long protests against the military regime. All across Sudan, thousands of people took to the streets on Thursday to demand a transition to civilian rule.
The Sudanese people have reached a point where they can only be ruled by a civilian government. It's the only way.
More than 2 months in, Sudan's protest movement was still going strong, despite a brutal repression that's left dozens of people dead and hundreds injured. Undeterred by the deadly use of force, protesters have continued to denounce a military takeover led by General Abdel Fattah al-Burhan. The October 25th coup had derailed the country's democratic transition following the ousting of longtime dictator Omar al-Bashir in 2019.
I'm out today to achieve a real transition to democracy. The truth is that the Sudanese revolution did not achieve the targets it set out in 2019.
On Sunday, Sudanese Prime Minister Abdallah Hamdok announced his resignation, saying he had failed to stop the country's slide into chaos. Formerly acclaimed by the people, he was accused of betrayal after signing a power-sharing deal with the army in November. The military now says it wants to replace Hamdok as soon as possible, but the international community has warned that nominating a new prime minister without holding elections could further undermine what little is left of the regime's credibility.
US envoy for the Horn of Africa, Jeffrey Feltman, is going to step down from the post later this month. The diplomat has had a rocky 9-month tenure, facing several roadblocks as he spearheaded America's efforts to mitigate Ethiopia's conflict and Sudan's political crisis. The US's ambassador to Turkey, David Satterfield, is expected to take up the role. Caroline Camille reports from Nairobi.
To the United States as a whole. So there's a certain
Feltman's resignation comes as he visits Ethiopia for peace talks for a 3rd time since he took office in April last year. He's meeting with Prime Minister Abiy Ahmed and other senior government officials. Now, one of the main reasons that the Biden administration appointed Feltman to the role was to facilitate peace efforts in the region, including and especially between Ethiopia and Sudan, where there were tensions at the time. He did come into the role at a particularly tumultuous time. The civil war in Ethiopia was worsening, and it was just months before the October 25th coup in Sudan. Incidentally, he met just a day before with military leaders to dissuade them from taking action. Now, Feltman's efforts were just one of many failed interventions in the region, including others by the African Union, the United Nations, and regional leaders. The resignation does not seem completely unexpected. We do know that David Satterfield, who is a career diplomat and the former ambassador to Turkey, is expected to take up the role.
Caroline Camille there for us. Look now at some news in brief. Whilst on a trip to Kenya, China's foreign minister said that his country would appoint a special peace envoy for the Horn of Africa. Wang Yi's tour of the region this week kicked off with a visit to Eritrea, which has been an ally of the Ethiopian government in its battle against Tigrayan rebels. Wang also said that Beijing's relationship with the continent will shift focus from infrastructure to trade. He's next heading to Comoros. Algeria's ambassador is back on the job in Paris. Anta Daoud was recalled 3 months ago by his president, Abdelmajid Tebboune, after French leader Emmanuel Macron commented on Algeria's pre-colonial history and post-colonial system of government. Algiers also stopped France from flying military planes in its airspace and accused Paris of genocide during colonialism. Algeria gained independence from France after a devastating 6-year war that ended in 1962, and discussion of that era remains fraught. Nigeria has labelled kidnapping gangs in the northwest terrorists. Known locally as bandits, the armed crews have ramped up violent raids and mass abductions for ransom. The designation will mean tougher sanctions under terror prevention laws for gunmen and their supporters. Security forces have been using air raids and telecoms shutdowns to crack down on criminal gangs, and this week said that they'd rescued around 100 kidnapping victims in 2 raids in Zamfara state in the northwest. Now, France has eased travel restrictions for South Africans by allowing vaccinated travellers in without a quarantine. Paris had almost completely banned travel to and from South Africa after the first Omicron cases were detected in the African nation in November. Overall, South Africa is still subject to 94 major travel restrictions from other countries trying to rein in the spread of Omicron on their territories. But as South Africa exits its 4th wave of the pandemic, many of its citizens think other nations have missed the mark by targeting travellers from their country. Our correspondents report.
The southern summer is in full swing on the crowded beaches of Cape Town, where life seems completely normal. Many South Africans think their country is being unnecessarily characterized as a pandemic hotspot.
Compared to other countries, I don't think we're doing as bad as the countries that are blocking us from coming into their countries as well.
I think it is because we are a developing country. That's why they are putting us on the red list. But if we were like America, then we wouldn't be on a red list.
This developing country discovered the Omicron variant and is still studying it. In this laboratory in Durban, 2/3 of the continent's COVID samples have been analysed. South African scientists who are at the forefront of global COVID research have published several studies with similar conclusions. The Omicron variant causes less severe disease than the other variants.
That this variant can still make people very sick, and it can still cause people to die. But if you have that protection, that immune protection, either from previous infection or from vaccination, then your risk of getting very sick and dying is much, much less.
South African hospitals have never been full with the Omicron variant. Experts believe that South Africans have developed herd immunity during previous waves. With the health system under no pressure, authorities did not want to impose further restrictions. They still encourage people to get vaccinated, and almost 40% of the adult population has done so. It seems that South Africa has surfed over the peak of the 4th wave of COVID-19 infections smoothly, but experts warn the South African case study might not be applicable everywhere else due to unique variables like the young age of the population, the rate of immunity and the climate, seeing as it's summer in the southern hemisphere.
Now, Senegal's national football team has some of the greatest sporting stars in Africa and has led the continent's FIFA rankings for about 5 years. But despite all this, it's never actually won a major tournament. However, the Lions of Teranga were finalists in the last Africa Cup of Nations. And this time round, just days before the tournament's kickoff, they're still being touted as favourites. Tagged eternal losers and often mocked by social media by other former Cup winners, the fans of the Senegalese squad do hope to see their run of bad luck end this year. Our team reports.
Paco is the Lions' official mascot, and today, at a training session with the 12th Gandé, a famous group of supporters, he's confident this is going to be his team's year.
On an optimist
we're optimistic for this Africa Cup of Nations. We've been chasing the title for a very long time. Really, it's something we want. And let's hope that this time, it will be the right one. Go Senegal!
Former Senegalese international Hamdi Faye was a finalist at AFCON in 2002. He says the squad often falls short because it lacks determination.
We do not have a winning mentality. We have it at 50% during the final stages, during the qualifiers. But to go for the cup, you need it all the way. That's the problem. For this, we must force destiny. That's why we put the emphasis on this generation.
After losing to Algeria in 2019 in Egypt, Senegal is in it to win this year. Supporters hope the top-flight players on the team will give it their all.
Today, the backbone of the team is composed of world-class players like Idrissa Gana Gueye, Kalidou Koulibaly, Edouard Mendy and Sadio Mane. There really is talent in this team. The coach is also at a level where he has gained a lot of experience. This is his third AFCON as a coach. There are many reasons for hope. It will be difficult, but Senegal has the weapons to go to the end.
Senegal's Lions are hungry for a win at their first match in Cameroon. They'll be facing Zimbabwe on Monday.
Well, that's it for Eye on Africa for now. Thanks for joining us, and do so again if you can. Take care.